Here comes the importance of don't try to stand out with work, but work on. If you can build this reputation, it cannot be more idealistic than this. If your employee is very, they know that this person is someone that they can trust. If you start out your grad position or your first full-time work, try to stay there at least. Number 4, which sort of builds on from the previous point, is then how can you actually conservatively stand out and show your employers that you are a great talent compared to other candidates? Here comes the importance of personal branding. Personal branding is known to be the process of creating an identity for yourself, especially in an organization. I'll give you an example. In short, don't try to stand out with work, but work on personal branding. You might go, what exactly is personal branding at work? At an early stage, I'll give you an example. I'm really known for excellent public presentation. People around me know this, and because of this, they've asked me a couple of times to be part of some cool opportunities where they needed a public speaker or a good speaker. Plus, my employers know that I'm an excellent presenter, so I usually became the go-to person whenever my managers or friends need me to go on stage or speak in front of an audience or need someone for a company. Personal branding is when you're known for a certain thing. For example, Daniel is an excellent note taker. If we ever need to write notes or if we ever need a scribe or record keeper, I'm gonna bring Daniel. Or Daniel is so good at Excel. If I ever need to give an Excel task, I'm gonna go to Daniel. Or Daniel is so good at Photoshop. So if I ever need to give a Photoshop task to interns or graduates, I will first find Daniel. These are an example of excellent personal branding. Instead of trying to stand out with performance at work, where you're judged by different metrics or performance and management criteria, try to build personal branding, which means Daniel is known for X. Or you can say X equals Daniel. If you can build this reputation, this personal branding at work when you're an intern or a graduate, it cannot be more idealistic than this. Number 5, whenever you make mistakes, don't make up an excuse, transparently accept it and be honest. The professor that I've spoken with the other day from Yonsei told me that managers know that anyone can make mistakes and it is inevitable to make mistakes at work. It makes a difference when someone makes up an excuse or when someone tries to find an excuse, but here's where you make difference. Someone who tries to find an excuse or makes up an excuse versus someone who just humbly accepts it and be honest about it, employers actually choose the latter. In short term, you might think, if I be honest, then I'm going to quickly build up a bad reputation. What if my employer doesn't trust me? What if I'm known to be a person who just makes mistakes all the time? But that's coming from a very narrow vision person. If you think from a management perspective, if your employee is very honest about their mistakes and be very transparent with their weaknesses, they know that this person is someone that they can trust. Even though they might think, oh, Daniel could be clumsy sometimes. Because again, if your personal branding is he is very honest, he accepts his mistakes, and he's very transparent about his weaknesses, then your manager or your boss could think, well, Daniel is very transparent, he's very honest, so I can trust what he's doing and I can trust that he will come to me whenever he makes mistakes. Which in long term allows the manager to trust you more than anyone else. It can't be worse than you try to cover up your mistake or lie about a mistake or make up an excuse about your mistake and your boss finds out later. This you can never turn back. I will quickly share my example. I'm in Canberra right now, and on the day that I need to travel to Canberra, I had to be on campus by 8 a.m. But I woke up at 8 a.m. This never happened in my career and I was just mentally destroyed. So I saw a missed call from my manager and I got seriously worried, and for a second I was tempted to make up an excuse like maybe, oh, there's a traffic or I lost my way, there was an accident. But I remembered the advice that the professor told me the other day, and I just honestly and transparently told my manager that I forgot to set an alarm, I woke up right now and I'm trying to get there before 9 a.m. Obviously this could have led to a disappointment to my manager, but surprisingly my manager really was understanding and he encouraged me rather than picking on my mistake, and I sincerely appreciate that, and I'm really blessed to have a manager like him. So you never know what your manager will think when you make a mistake, and if you don't know, just be honest, because in longer term, this could build trust between yourself and your manager. Number 6, over communication is better than under communication. I was told to always copy or CC anyone who is in my team or relevant or who might be interested in this project. When I was told that over communication is always better than under communication, I could resonate with my internship experience. There was a time when client was asking me a question and my managers were copied into the email, but I directly replied to the client's message without copying my managers in. And a few weeks later, my manager came up to me very confused, saying when the client emailed her and asked something about the progress of the project, she had no idea. So she asked me to explain what has been happening over the past few weeks with a quick summary in a document. So it took some extra time of my own to gather all the emails that I exchanged with the client and write a summary to my manager, which delayed the process of the project timeline. And this is when I really learned the lesson of over communication is always better than under communication, because you never know when you might need it and you never know when someone might want to refer to it. And the last tip for today is, if you start out your grad position or your first full-time work, try to stay there at least a year, if not 2 years. This was the last advice that my professor gave me. And I asked him why 1 year or why 2 years idealistically. And he told me that 2 years is like a very standard time when an employer recognizes your experience as a worthy experience to put on your CV or your resume. Only if you have stayed at an organization for 2 years, that's when you can understand the direction that your team is heading towards. That's the time when you have completed certain amount of projects from the start to the very end. Only if you have stayed more than a year or 2 years, you would have experienced, you can see all of short-term projects, mid-term projects, and even long-term projects. Specifically, if you were successful and fortunate enough to start your graduate career at a very highly regarded big companies, big brand companies, it is more important for you to stay at least 2 years in order for this to be very powerful in your career or in your resume. Let's say you want to move to another organization after you start a grad role and you send out your resumes to different companies, different employers, but if it only says that you've been at this company for 6 months, then they're gonna think, what have you been doing for 6 months? Did you even build up any experience? Because first months would have been just induction training. So what kind of experience would you have actually gotten? And they could ask, were you even able to complete one full project? Do you know how an organization actually works? If you want your experience to be recognized as a valuable experience, he recommended me to stay at least 2 years, minimum 1 year in an organization at a full-time position. So today I just wanted to share a couple of tips and tricks and some advice that I received from a professor that I've spoken with recently for anyone who is starting out their career, whether it is an internship work experience or a graduate position. Hopefully this video was helpful and opened your eyes in some form. Again, this is not a rocket science. It could be different to some of you, but I just wanted to share this information with you. If you've got any questions, please drop it down in the comments, or otherwise, until we all have our idealistic life, I'll move on. Thank you.